we have a debate. The debate is comic book art. Is it better to be realistic looking art, like an Alex Ross type, or cartoony kind of art, like we saw in Persepolis? Hawaii.
After reading that, I'd say cartoony. I like.
Is that what cartoony? Is that what Persepolis? Is that cartoony art?
It's far more. Yeah, it's definitely cartoony.
Like
What's the definition of cartoony art, and can you use it?
Unrealistic would definitely be one of the parameters that cartoony falls under, which is why this debate is so engaging.
No, wait. I just want
cartoony. Yeah, it's stylized. So you have a style to it. It's not based on. I mean, it is based on the human figure, but it has a unique style to each artist that does it, as where a realistic artist is trying to match a photograph.
I would like to point out something that you may not have noticed about the comics that you were given. And that's that the X-Men was a fantastic story set in space, done with realistic art. Persepolis was an autobiography set in a war that was cartoony. Now, isn't that ironic?
It is very ironic.
Just blew my
That is
mind.
the proper use of the word ironic. Alanis Morissette, eat your heart.
It's when the literal truth and the actual truth are complete opposites.
You got that from Melody Whites. Okay.
Yes.
So, I agree with Huayra. And I think that the funny thing is that I think the reason why so many comics have realistic art now is because they're trying to appeal to a more adult audience. A lot of the pseudo-realistic art in comics now resembles like 80s like
airbrushing?
Airbrushing, like, you know, a woman on a motorcycle with her chest hanging out, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, that's realistic. Like,
And a credit card.
But I don't think it has any value beyond that. I think that more comics should be cartoony, because I think that making them cartoony would appeal to more people. And I think the proof is that the more critically acclaimed artistic comics are cartoony, like Persepolis. So that's why I like it.
I think that this entire room is actually dumber for like listening to that whole speech.
Really? Why do you say that?
Because that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Why is that?
First
because
of all,
you don't like cartoony.
No, I do not. I think like when you open up a comic book like Kingdom Come, like Alex Ross's
Alex Ross's work is like that realism and that work moved comics up. When Kingdom Come or when Marvel's came out and his watercolor artwork, which looked extremely, you could see the wrinkles in the clothes, it looked like it was real. That, I believe, escalated comic books, and I think he's somewhat responsible for where we are right now with the Iron Man movies and all that sort of stuff, and making this seem to push it into a new level, because Art Adams and all that earlier stuff, which led to Tom McFarlane and all that, was actually trying to achieve that. By showing locks of hair like
in a way,
Perez and those guys.
The thing is this, like as a kid, right? Like when we were kids reading comic books, it was all men in tights and whatever, right? Like I always put it, my son's 4 years old, so I put it in perspective of how he sees it, right? And he sees like these characters drawn with like loose hanging costume. Like the costume doesn't fit exactly, because he thinks these characters are all real, right?
No, I think you're wrong. How does your son seeing realistic clothes hanging off a guy make the comic better? It makes it more realistic, but how does it make it better?
I'm not saying it makes it better or worse. I'm saying that for him, when he sees that, it keeps him believing that there is a Santa Claus. That's why we put the cookies out in the milk and all that stuff, right? And as he gets older and becomes an adult and knows obviously there is no Santa Claus and there is no superhero, it still holds that. Do you know what I mean?
It's good for your 4-year-old son, but somebody who's older who maybe isn't into comics, I think it's better to read something like this and see this as opposed to the Men in Tights.
I think the problem is that comics right now are trying to just mimic film. Everything they do in comics is like, here's a storyboard of a film, a frame of a film, a widescreen image with a captured moment in time, whereas a true comic book has a language of its own, a cartoony language of its own, and it should employ its own storytelling devices and not try to imitate a film.
Okay, I say this. Let's let the audience decide.
Who likes cartoony comic book art more? Woo! Who likes realistic?
Who likes
realistic
realistic
comic book art?
Yeah! I am the winner.
So you don't know.
Guys, thank you for coming out every episode and supporting us, and you guys are the best. And the guys at Fog for hosting us every single week. And the entire crew and everybody.
We'll see you guys next season!
That kid's breath smells like bug spray.
Comic books.
Yeah!
Chef Jenny.
to another George. Papard, I love it when a plan comes together.